Welcome to the Irish Folklore Archive. Stories for sleep, calm, and the wandering mind. Like all folklore, these tales change as they're passed on. This is one telling shared in that spirit. And remember to subscribe for more stories. The Fairy Path of Knockfierna. Welcome. Settle in. Let your breath fall into an easy rhythm, and let your mind drift toward the quiet hills of County Limerick. Tonight's story comes from Knockfierna, a steep, solitary hill that rises above the townlands of Ballingarry. Locals call it Knockfierna, the Hill of Truth, or sometimes the Hill of the Fairies. It's a place woven with wind, heather, and old paths, and one of those paths is not meant for human feet. This is the story of the fairy path of Knockfierna, and of what happens when someone crosses into a road that belongs to another world. Take a deep breath and let the story carry you. Knockfierna rises gently at first, with quiet fields stretching around its base. Cattle graze, crows call across the sky, and the wind rolls like a tide through the tall grass. But as you climb higher, the ground changes. The hill narrows into ridges and stony shelves, and the land begins to feel older, as if each step is moving backwards in time. For generations, the people who lived in the shadow of Knockfierna spoke of a narrow trail that cuts across the slope, a straight, unnaturally straight line running from the old ring fort to the ridge above. It never curves, it never bends, it goes exactly where it wants to go. They said that the path belonged to the people of the mounds, the fairy folk, and they warned that no house, no wall, no farm gate should ever block it. Those who tried didn't prosper long. Long ago, a small family lived on the western side of the hill. A farmer named Micheál, his wife Bridget, and their daughter, Emer. They kept a modest farm, a handful of cows, a vegetable patch, and a low stone cottage with a thatched roof. For years, their home rested peacefully beside the slope. But one spring, Micheál decided to expand his cattle field. He built a new stone wall higher up the hill, a sturdy, well-made barrier that cut directly across the old straight track locals whispered about. His neighbours shook their heads. "You've built over the fairy path," one said. That's not a place to be interfering with. But Micheál laughed it off. He was a practical man, and tales of fairies seemed no match for hard work and careful planning. Still, the hill had its own ideas. The first trouble came quietly. Each morning, when Micheál rose early to check his cattle, he found the new stones knocked down, not scattered, not smashed, but neatly laid out on the grass, as if someone had dismantled the wall piece by piece. He rebuilt it. The next morning, the same thing happened. Again and again, reconstruction followed by silent, orderly collapse. Bridget grew uneasy. She asked him to leave it be, but Micheál shook his head. A wall is a wall, he said, and a path is a path. There's room enough for both. But the hill did not agree. One night, a heavy wind rolled over Knockfierna, howling from the west like something alive. The cottage groaned against the gusts, and the rafters rattled in the dark. Inside, Emer woke from sleep. She heard footsteps, not loud, not heavy, soft, swift, passing by the window, then circling the house. She sat up, listening. The footsteps moved in a straight line, as if following the invisible road that now ran through her father's new wall. The wind died suddenly, and in the silence that followed, she heard a sound like many voices whispering at once. Distant but close, layered like wind moving through tall grass. Emer slipped from bed and woke her parents. They listened and heard nothing. But when dawn came, Micheál stepped outside and froze. The wall he rebuilt the evening before was not only taken down, the stones were stacked in a perfect ring, as tidy as a craftsman's circle. Too perfect. No human hand could have done it so precisely, nor so quietly in a single night. That morning, an elderly neighbour, Moira, stopped by. She had lived near Knockfierna all her life and knew more of its stories than anyone. When she saw the ring of stones, she nodded slowly. "That's a warning," she said. "You've built across their road, Micheál, and they're asking you kindly to move." Micheál stood firm, I don't believe in fairy folk giving orders. Moira looked at him with pity. It's not a matter of belief, she said softly. It's a matter of respect. But he didn't listen. That night, the wind returned. The second night rose cold and clear. The moon sat high above the hill, pale and watchful. Emer could not sleep. She felt a strange pull towards the window, as if someone were calling her name without a voice. She rose and peered outside. There, moving along the straight, narrow line that cut across the hillside, were lights. Small, drifting orbs like lanterns carried by unseen hands. They moved in a procession, following the fairy path with perfect precision. Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to look away, but couldn't. Among the lights, she sensed shapes. Tall, slender forms that glided rather than walked. They cast no shadows, and their faces seemed blurred, as if the moonlight refused to settle on them. The procession reached the place where Mihal's wall had been. There, the lights paused, and the whispering began again. This time, Emer heard her own name in the murmur. She stumbled back from the window. At dawn, Mihal went to check the wall once more. But the stones were gone entirely. Not moved, not scattered, gone. Where the wall had stood, there was now a bare, smooth strip of earth running perfectly straight, as if the hill itself had erased the obstacle. He finally understood. That evening he gathered the remaining stones and rebuilt the wall, but away from the path, leaving the straight, ancient line unobstructed. From that day on, the farm was peaceful again. The wind gentled, the whispering ceased, and the lights never returned. But Mihal would never again build across a line that wasn't meant for him, and he taught Emer the same truth. There are paths in Ireland that belong to another world, and the wisest thing a person can do is let them be. Knockfierna still stands today, quiet and windswept, watching over the fields of County Limerick. Hikers sometimes notice the straight trail cutting across its side. Most walk around it without thinking. A few pause, sensing something old beneath their feet. If you ever visit, listen to the wind as it moves through the grass. You might hear footsteps. You might hear whispers. Or maybe you will hear nothing at all. Let your breath soften. Let your mind drift. And let the quiet of Knockfierna carry you into rest. Good night.